The black ship floated near the edge of a dying star, silent, empty, cold. Captain Verax watched it from the control screen of the UFP scout vessel, Lancer 12. His green skin glowed dimly in the blue light of the console. No life signs, no heat. No distress signal, said Science Officer Tilna, her long fingers tapping the data pad. But there is something strange. Verax turned to her. Strange how? Tilna didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed on the monitor. Finally, she said in a quiet voice, "There's only one thing on that ship. A sealed container in the cargo hold. It's not on any known database, and it's not alien." Verax narrowed his eyes. "Not alien?" Tilna nodded slowly. "I think it's human." A silence spread across the bridge. The crew looked at each other. "But humans are extinct," said Navigator Browl. "Gone over 1,000 cycles ago. No one knows what happened to them," added Security Chief Dinar. "They just disappeared." Verax stood up. "Prepare. A boarding team. I want that container." Moments later, the boarding shuttle connected with the strange ship. It was dark inside. The walls burned and melted as if something had tried to escape. The crew stepped carefully, weapons ready, lights cutting through the heavy shadows. They reached the cargo hold. There, in the center of the room, sat the box. It was about the size of a coffin, made of a black metal that reflected no light. Strange letters ran across its surface. The letters pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. One of the engineers whispered, "I don't like this. It feels alive." Verax stepped closer. His voice was calm, but curious. "Is it safe to move?" "Yes," said Tilna, scanning it. "No radiation, no traps." "But Captain, this writing, it's old Earth script. And one line keeps repeating." "What does it say?" Tilna swallowed. "It says, 'Do not open. Humanity must remain sealed.'" Another silence. Verax looked at the box. His voice was steady. "Bring it aboard." Back on Lancer 12, the container was placed in Lab Bay 3. Tilna, Dinar, and a few techs began scanning the strange object. The lights in the lab flickered every few minutes. "It's reacting to us," said Tilna. "It's not just metal. It's something else. Maybe biotech. Old human design, very advanced." As they worked, the symbols on the box changed. Computer suddenly translated the new message aloud in a soft, human-like voice. "You are not ready." Everyone froze. Then came a second voice. Different, deeper. "Humanity was sealed away for your safety." Dinar grabbed his weapon. "Turn it off, now." Tilna shook her head. "It's not connected to any power. It's waking up." Suddenly, a sharp hiss filled the room. The top of the box opened slightly, letting out a cold white mist. Tilna stepped back. "Captain, we shouldn't be doing this." "The warning." Verax held up his hand. "Too late." "It's opening." The box fully unlocked with a mechanical sound. Inside was a round, crystal-like core, floating above a bed of strange wires and nanomachines. Holograms activated around it, showing flashes of Earth's history wars. Cities burning. People shouting, laughing, crying. Images of humans through the centuries. Then came the last image. A man standing alone in space, surrounded by fire, holding a broken Earth flag. The voice spoke again. "This is the human starter kit, for emergency use only." "What kind of emergency?" asked Denar. The voice replied, "Galaxy-level threat, weapon class species, human." Everyone looked at each other. "Weapon class species?" Tilna whispered. Verax looked stunned. "Is it saying humans were a weapon?" The holograms changed again. This time, it showed schematics, a way to rebuild humans. Instructions for DNA printing, neural growth, memory reconstruction. "It's a blueprint," Tilna said. "To bring humans back." She stared at the floating core. "Captain, this could be history's greatest discovery." Dinar stepped forward. "Or its greatest mistake." There was silence in the lab. Everyone waited for Varix to speak. Finally, he said, "Begin the protocol." Tilna's eyes widened. "Sir, begin it." With shaking hands, Tilna pressed the activation sequence. The lab dimmed. The machines around the crystal lit up. Tubes extended. Lights blinked. Inside the chamber, a human body began to grow, cell by cell, faster than anything natural. Over the next 24 hours, a fully grown man formed inside a clear pod. He looked young, strong. His eyes remained closed. Then, without warning, he opened them. Everyone stared. The human sat up slowly, looked around, and spoke in a calm, quiet voice. "Where is the war?" No one answered. The crew backed away. The human smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was cold, calculating. Tilna whispered, "He shouldn't know that word. We didn't teach him." The man looked at her. "I remember." "Remember? What?" she asked. "Everything." Alarm suddenly blared. One of the techs screamed, "Something's happening." "The box, it's replicating." The kid had started another process. A second chamber was forming. Another human. Varix stepped back. "Shut it down," Tilna tried. "I can't, it's locked in." The first human looked around the room again. "You opened the box. That means the war is still coming. Or worse, it already started." Varix stepped forward. "Who are you?" The man stood up. "I'm what you brought back, and now they'll come too." "Who?" Varix asked. The man didn't answer. He walked to the edge of the lab, looked through the glass at the stars, and simply said, "You should have left us sealed." That night, the lights in Lab Bay 3 went out. All cameras went offline. By the next morning, the lab was empty. The human was gone. The second pod was broken from the inside and scratched into the wall. Written in old Earth language was a single word: begin. The research station floated quietly above the stormy gas giant known as Varellin 6. It was a cold, silver ring in the sky, circling endlessly, hidden from most scanners. Deep inside its sealed walls, the human starter kit sat in the center of Lab Bay 3, humming softly. The crystal core inside the black box pulsed like a beating heart. The crew hadn't slept well in days. Science Officer Tona rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the monitors. Data streamed across the screen, impossible numbers, growing too fast for her to track. She turned to the others. "It's learning," she whispered. "Faster than I thought." Security Chief Dinar stood with arms crossed near the door. His dark red uniform made him look like a statue, but his eyes stayed on the chamber. "He disappeared once," Dinar said. "He could do it again." "He's not hostile," Tilna replied. "He just understands too much." The human Subject Zero was now fully dressed in UFP lab clothing. He sat on a metal bench, looking calm, even curious. He watched the scientists work, but never spoke unless spoken to. Captain Varix stepped into the lab. His voice was low. "Report." Tilna stood straight. "He's learning at a speed that's beyond our tech. He's read all our historical records, memorized our ship systems, even corrected one of our star maps." Varix looked at the human through the glass. "Has he said anything new?" Tilna hesitated. "Yes, last night. He asked if we had found the others yet." Varix frowned. "Others?" Before Tilna could answer, the human looked up and stared directly at them. His mouth moved. They couldn't hear him, but his lips clearly formed one word: "Now." A loud beep rang out. Lights flashed red. Machines activated inside the human starter kit. Robotic arms extended. New chambers unfolded from its sides. Strange. Liquid began to fill the pods. "What's happening?" Varix asked. Tilna rushed to the console. It's starting Phase 2. "What is Phase 2? It's creating more humans." 2 new bodies began to form inside the pods, one male, one female. Bones, muscles, organs, all developing rapidly, just like Subject Zero had. Dinar grabbed his weapon. Shut it down. I can't, Tilna said. It's not letting me access the controls. Suddenly, the main screen turned black. Then white letters appeared. This is not a malfunction. Humanity is a chain. One link activates the next. Varix leaned closer. What does that mean? Before anyone could speak, Subject Zero stood up inside the observation chamber. He looked directly into the camera and smiled. Welcome, he said. You've started the chain. The two pods opened. Steam poured out. The new humans took deep breaths. Their eyes opened at the same time. They didn't scream. They didn't panic. They looked at Subject Zero and nodded. How is that possible? Dinar asked. They just woke up. They can't even speak yet. Subject Zero answered for them. They don't need to speak. We're connected. We were always connected. Varric stepped back. Telepathy? No, Subject Zero said. Memory, purpose. We're not born like you. We're restored. Tilna whispered. He's telling the truth. Their brains are already active, like adults. Their neural patterns are in sync. This isn't cloning. It's resurrection. The female human turned to the window. Her eyes were cold, calm, focused. Your species should not have opened this kit, she said. Varix tried to reason with her. We thought it was a gift. A lost civilization. We only wanted to learn. You wanted control, she interrupted. You wanted power over something you didn't understand. The male human stepped forward. You saw the warnings. You heard the voice. Dinar raised his weapon. I'm not letting you escape again. Subject Zero looked at him and tilted. His head. Escape? We never tried to escape. We allowed ourselves to be seen. The room went silent. Varric spoke carefully. Why? So you'd follow the process. So you'd activate the next step, Subject Zero said. You think you opened the box, but the box opened you. Suddenly, the station trembled. An alarm blared. External breach detected. Shouted a voice over the intercom. Docking bay. 3, unknown ship incoming. Varric turned to the monitors. A small ship was approaching fast. No UFP markings, no transponder. What is that? He asked. Tilna's face turned pale. It's not from any known world. But the design. It matches something I saw in the kit's memory files. Varrix's voice went hard, meaning? It's human. The new humans in the lab smiled. Our brothers and sisters heard the signal, the female said. They're coming home. Security teams scrambled to prepare. Weapons were armed. Shields activated. But it was too late. The mystery ship docked. With perfect precision, the airlocks opened. More humans entered, calm, silent, confident. All of them were different skin tones, heights, even styles of movement, but they moved with one mind. Like soldiers who had already fought the same war 100 times. How did they know? Dinar asked. Subject Zero answered simply. We never forgot each other. We were made to survive, even if scattered across galaxies. Once awakened, we return. Varric stared in disbelief. You were created as weapons, he said. Who created? You? And why? Subject Zero looked at him with eyes that seemed older than time. Our makers are gone. Long dead. They feared extinction. So they built us, not to rule, not to lead, but to protect their memory, to survive what they could not. Tilna whispered, survive what? The lab lights flickered. The station groaned. Outside, something massive moved beyond the gas giant, a shape too large to understand. It swallowed starlight. A deep hum shook the ship. Subject Zero turned to the window. There, he said, the real threat. The one they built us for. Varrix's voice was shaky. You said we opened the box. And it opened us. What does that mean? You wanted knowledge, Subject Zero said. You got purpose. You wanted power. You got responsibility. Now you must choose, fight beside us, or be the first to fall. No one spoke. Outside, the stars dimmed. Inside the lab, the humans stood tall, ready. And the kit, the box, began to hum again, louder than ever. As if it was breathing, the final message appeared on every screen. Phase 3, activation imminent. The lights in Lab Bay 3 buzzed low and steady. Everything looked calm on the outside, but everyone inside the station felt it. Something had changed. The kit, once just a black box, had become a living machine. Its soft hum echoed across the metal floor, growing louder with each passing hour. A signal. A heartbeat. Science Officer Tilna sat at her console, reviewing scans of Subject 0. She had scanned hundreds of alien species in her life, but this was different. The data kept shifting. The human's brain activity moved like a storm, never still. His body was strong, but not just in muscle. It was built for speed, endurance, and pain. He's reading again, Tilna said. Her voice quiet. Captain Varric stepped closer to the glass wall, separating them from the human. How much has he read? All of it, Tilna said. Every UFP law, battle report, star map. Everything. Subject 0 sat on the other side, legs crossed, reading a small screen. He was calm, but his eyes moved fast. Too fast. When he noticed Varric watching, he smiled. Your wars are interesting, Subject 0 said. You fight for so little. Space, flags, pride, is that all? Varric didn't respond. He didn't like talking to the human. There was something in that voice, something that knew too much. Tilna spoke gently. Why were you sealed away? Subject 0 set the screen down and stood. Because we were too good at what we did. Tilna's hands froze above the keyboard. And what was that? He looked at her through the glass. Surviving. Security Chief Dinar walked into the lab, frowning. I don't trust him. I think he's playing with us, Varric nodded. Maybe, but we need answers. We activated the kit. We can't undo that now. Then let's lock it down, Dinar said. Full shutdown. We stop the kit before more of them wake up. It's too late, Subject 0 said. They all turned to him. The kit doesn't need your permission anymore, he added. It's awake. I'm awake. And soon the others will be too. Dinar stepped forward. What others? The first ones, Subject 0 said. My team. What team? Varric asked. The ones who ended the war you don't even remember. Tilna whispered. What war? The human paused, eyes distant. The one before your time, the one that erased planets. You call them myths, we called them enemies. Who created you? Varric demanded. We were created by the last survivors of a dying empire. Not to rule, but to win. The lab lights flickered. Suddenly, the power dropped. Red lights lit the halls. The kit began humming louder. On every screen, a message appeared. Phase 3, release authorized. Varric shouted, shut it down. Now, Tilna ran to her controls. It's not responding. I've lost control. The kit opened slowly, revealing a second crystal, one not seen before. Inside, the image of a second human rotated, glowing blue. Then, something else happened. Subject 0 stepped back from the glass. His skin lit up with faint red lines running along his veins. He smiled. I remember now, Tilna gasped. What's happening to him? He's reconnected, Subject 1 said from behind them. The crew spun around. Standing near the back of the lab was the female from the second pod, the one who woke up just yesterday. No one saw her enter. She was silent. Calm. Where are the guards? Dinar asked. She smiled. Sleeping. Tilna's eyes widened. You disabled them. No, Subject 1 replied. They're just not needed anymore. Varric turned to Subject 0. Why are you doing this? We gave you peace. You were safe. Subject Zero's eyes glowed faint red. You thought. You gave me peace, but you gave me purpose. You woke me up. Tilna looked at the screen. The second human in the new pod was almost fully formed. He's ready. Subject 1 said softly. Subject 0 stepped forward. He was the best of us, strongest mind, coldest hand. If he's here, it means war is near. Varric shouted, we won't let you take this station. Subject 1 tilted her head. You already did. An explosion rocked the hallway. The crew fell as smoke poured in from the vents. Warning sirens screamed across the station. Breach in engineering. A voice cried over comms. Unknown entities on board. Then silence. The kit stopped humming. The final pod opened. From the white mist stepped a tall, lean man. His eyes opened slowly, glowing pale blue. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. Subject 0 nodded to him. Welcome back. The new human looked at the crew, and then he smiled. Not in joy. In recognition. You tried to control us, he said, voice like ice. You thought you opened a box. He turned to the kit, but it opened you. Without warning, the station gravity shifted. Power died. Every door unlocked. More footsteps echoed in the halls. More of them had come. Till now whispered. They weren't just hiding. They were waiting. Subject 0 looked at her kindly. We don't hate you, but we don't need you. Dinar raised his weapon. I won't let you take control. Subject 1 held out a hand. You already gave it away. All at once. The humans disappeared into the darkness, as if they were never there, and the only thing left behind was a message glowing on the lab wall. Phase 4 begins. Darkness hung over the research station like a silent storm. The lights flickered on and off, the air filled with tension. Every hallway echoed with whispers, some real, some imagined. The humans were no longer just subjects in a lab. They were loose. They were watching. And they were building something. Captain Varric stood inside the command center, staring at the central monitor. It showed broken camera feeds, flashing alerts, and a growing number of red zones on the station map. How many are there now? He asked quietly. Science Officer Tilna, pale and exhausted, checked her tablet. At least 16, maybe more. They move too fast. Sometimes they vanish between scans. They're spreading through the station like a virus, said Security Chief Dinar. And we still don't know what they want. They don't want anything, Tilna said. They're doing what they were built to do. Survive? Varric asked. Tilna nodded. Yes, and evolve. In the old cargo bay, once used for storing supplies, the humans had taken over. They used metal panels, wires, even pieces of the walls to create their own space. No one told them what to do. They didn't argue. They worked like a hive, but each with their own will. Subject 0 walked between the others, calm and focused. He stopped next to Subject 1, who was using sharp tools to shape a strange device. They'll come for us soon. Subject 0 said. Subject 1 didn't look up. Let them. Nearby, 2 younger humans tested energy weapons they had built. From scrap. Another group was painting symbols on the wall's old earth marks, now long forgotten by the galaxy. One of the humans, smaller and younger looking, approached Subject 0. Why don't we strike first? Subject 0 looked at him carefully. Because we're not here to destroy. Not yet. Then why are we here? To remind them what humans really are. The younger human looked confused. What are we? Subject 0 answered simply. Chaos, hope, fire, ice. Everything they tried to forget. Meanwhile, Varric held a secret meeting with the remaining UFP command staff. We've lost engineering. We've lost the lower decks. And now they've taken the hangar, he said. A junior officer asked, should we evacuate? No. Varric replied, we can't let them escape into space. We contain this. Now, Dinar stepped forward. Let me lead a strike team. We'll clear the hangar, push them back. Use gas, force fields, anything. Tilna spoke up. That will only make it worse. You don't understand them. They're not just reacting, they're adapting. Dinar frowned. You want us to just sit and wait while they take the whole station? Tilna looked down. I'm saying, we already gave them what they needed. That night, Dinar and his strike team entered the hangar with heavy gear. They moved slowly, scanning every corner. At first, the space looked empty. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. You brought fire, said Subject 1, stepping out of the dark. Do you think we fear fire? Get down. Dinar shouted that his team fired stun rounds, but the shots hit only metal. A decoy from above. 3 humans dropped silently. In seconds, half the team was down, not dead, just unconscious. Dinar fought hard, but was knocked to the ground by a precise strike. Subject 0 stepped into the light and looked down at him. Still think we're animals? Dinar gasped, struggling to rise. What are you? We're you, Subject 0 said, but honest. The humans disappeared before the backup team arrived. Dinar survived. But something inside him changed that night. Back in the control room, Tilna sat alone with the human-made device the team had recovered from the hangar. It looked like a communication tool, but it wasn't using UFP signals. She cracked open the casing and scanned it. Her eyes widened. It's not a weapon, she whispered. It's a signal. She ran to Verex. They're not just organizing, they're calling out. To who? Verex asked. Tilna's voice shook. Other kits. Other places. Other humans. Verex's hands curled into fists. We have to destroy the device. Tilna hesitated. We can't. We already copied the signal by accident. It's been broadcasting for hours. The station shook. Outside, lights appeared in the black sky. Not ships. Pods. Dozens of them. From across the stars. More humans had heard the call. Inside the cargo bay, Subject 0 watched the lights fall like comets. They always feared what we could become, he said. One of the new humans asked him, will they understand now? No, Subject 0 said, but they will feel it. As the pods landed, the humans gathered together. Old Earth chants echoed through the bay, low and steady. Verex stared at the screen, feeling the weight of what had been done. Tilna looked at him. You said humans were extinct. You were wrong. They were asleep, Verex whispered, and now they're wide awake. Behind them, the main terminal blinked. One final message appeared. Phase 5, humanity assembles. The station was no longer under UFP control. Security systems had failed. Half the cameras were blind. The lights flickered more often now, and the crew walked in silence, their hands always near their sidearms. The humans didn't attack often. Not directly, but things went missing. Doors refused to open. Schedules and power logs were tampered with. Sabotage, Security Chief Dinar said, staring at the console in the war room. They're preparing something. Captain Verex stood beside him, jaw tight. What are they after? Freedom, said Science Officer Tilna quietly. They don't want to be caged anymore. The screen showed heat signatures clustered around Docking Bay 6. It was one of the larger hangars, mostly empty since the last supply ship left, but now it was full of human activity. The UFP crew didn't dare go near it. They're modifying something, Dinar said. Could be weapons, could be a ship. They're building their way out, Verex replied. We can't allow that. Meanwhile, inside Docking Bay 6, the humans were working in silence. Metal pieces clanked, sparks flew, wires twisted. It wasn't chaos, it was creation. Subject 0 stood at the center, inspecting a half-built spacecraft. Subject 1 joined him. It's nearly ready. We just need 3 more engines. We'll have them by nightfall, 0 said. And the station won't even notice until we're gone. A younger human asked. Why not fight? Why escape? Subject 0 looked at the growing ship, because war would waste time. We need to spread, grow. We are not made for cages, we are made for stars. Back in the command center, Tilna studied intercepted data from the hangar. She looked pale. They're almost done, she whispered. They're building a stealth-capable ship. Fast, small, hard to track. Varix turned to Dinar. We stopped them tonight. No delays. Full force, no holding back. Agreed, Dinar said. We hit them hard, before they launch. That night, the assault began. Gas grenades rolled into the docking bay. UFP soldiers stormed in behind them, weapons raised. Alarms screamed as red light washed across the bay floor. But there were no screams. No gunfire. No humans. The bay was empty. Varix's voice barked through coms. Where are they? Dinar scanned with heat sensors. They were here, minutes ago. One soldier pointed to the floor. Sir, hatchway open. Emergency maintenance tunnel. Varix's heart dropped. They used a decoy. The ship wasn't real. At that moment, lights across the station dimmed. Every door opened for exactly 5 seconds, just long enough. In docking bay 2. On the opposite side of the station, engines ignited. The real ship roared to life. Inside, Subject 0 stood at the controls. All humans aboard. No resistance. Launch now. Tilna, watching from the control tower, shouted into the mic. They tricked us. Launch override. The station refused to respond. They rewrote the launch protocols, she said. They own the system now. The ship lifted from the floor, rose through the hangar, and disappeared into the blackness of space. Varix stared at the screen. Did we get a tracker on it? He asked. Dinar checked his pad. They scrambled the signals. We don't know where they're going. Tilna slowly sat down. It's not just about where they're going. It's what they'll become when they get there. In the silence that followed, the main console lit up with one final message. Thank you for the lesson. Freedom is Phase 6. In the stars. Beyond the station, the human ship vanished into the void. Not running in fear, but rising in strength, and the galaxy would never be the same again. It began with silence. No warning, no call for help. Just darkness spreading across the stars. One by one, UFP colonies stopped sending signals. Outposts vanished from maps. Patrols disappeared. And the ones who returned spoke in broken voices. Their eyes full of fear. Captain Varix stood inside the war room, staring at the glowing map. Dozens of systems had gone dark in just 2 weeks. His jaw clenched. Where are they striking from? He asked. Science Officer Tilna leaned over the console. They're not striking from one place. They're moving in patterns, fast, random. Unpredictable. They're not random, said Dinar, now promoted to Admiral after the escape. They're testing us, learning how we react. The room fell quiet. Send the fleet, Varix said. All of it. We hit back now. Tilna looked uneasy. You think this is a war, Captain. But this is something else. Across space, the humans had become something more than just survivors. On every world they reached, they didn't destroy. They adapted. They hacked systems, turned machines into allies, built cities in days. In some places, they offered peace. In others, they demanded silence. One UFP commander sent a message back before vanishing. They don't fight like soldiers. They think like storms. They don't invade planets. They become them. On the edge of the Crimson Veil Nebula, the UFP's 7th Fleet gathered for a counterattack. 50 warships, thousands of drones, elite squads, all prepared to crush the growing threat. Admiral Dinar stood on the bridge of the Hammer's Oath. Any sign of them? No, sir, came the reply. Scanners clear, quiet. Too quiet. Then the lights flickered. Then came fire. It started with the drones. They turned mid-flight, targeting their own fleet. Communications jammed. Firewalls collapsed. UFP ships began to fall before they even saw an enemy. Who hacked us? Dinar shouted. Tilna, watching from the command ship, whispered, They didn't hack us, we taught them. Above them, 5 human-made ships appeared out of the void. Small, sleek, silent. They drifted like shadows and struck like lightning. The first wave hit the lead ship with silent beams of energy, shutting it down instantly. No explosion, just silence. The second wave released pulse bombs that knocked out shields. By the time the UFP returned fire, half the fleet was already gone. They're using our own tech. Dinar growled. Tilna's voice cracked through the static. Not using, improving. They don't waste, they upgrade. In the chaos, a message appeared across all UFP screens. Not a voice, just words. You taught us war. We gave it shape. Dinar slammed his fist into the console. Bring all weapons online. Target the lead ship. From within the human fleet, Subject Zero watched quietly. They still think this is about winning, he said. Subject One stood beside him. It's not, it's about evolution. The youngest human, still new to the stars, asked, Should we destroy them all? No, Subject Zero said. That's not our goal. Then what is? Subject Zero looked out at the burning fleet. To show them that the age of control is over. The galaxy doesn't belong to order, it belongs to the adaptable. On the Hammer's oath, Dinar refused to retreat. Focus fire, wipe them out. A human ship crashed into a UFP destroyer, but it didn't explode. It merged, boards opened. Humans spilled out. Not with guns, not with tools. They hijacked the ship from the inside, turning it into a living weapon. Sir, a soldier yelled. They're changing the ship from the inside. The last words heard from the Hammer's oath were, They're not fighting us, they're rewriting us. Then it, too, went dark. Only 2 ships escaped the battle. One carried Tilna. She stared at the wreckage in space, eyes full of tears. We tried to study them like machines. She whispered, but they weren't machines, they were mirrors. Varex's voice came through her. Did you survive? Barely, she said. And I think that was the point. In the silence of space, Subject Zero watched the fires fade. He turned to his people. Let them go, he said. One of the humans asked, Why? Because some will learn. Some will change. That's all we ever wanted. Change what? Subject Zero's eyes narrowed. The rules. Far beyond the battle site, dozens of human ships spread across space. Quiet, fast, strategic. They didn't fly flags. They didn't hold borders. They just moved forward. And behind them, the stars still burned. But the future was already being rewritten. Deep in the UFP archives, buried under forgotten star charts and ancient war logs, a red file blinked slowly on an old console. It hadn't activated in over 2,000 years. No one even knew it existed until now. Science Officer Tilna stared at the file with shaking hands. The message was short, only 3 words. Final protocol. Active. She didn't understand. She had survived battles, lost friends, watched the sky burn, but nothing had frightened her like this. Captain Varric stood behind her, silent. His face was pale, eyes locked on the screen. What does it mean? He asked. Tilna took a breath. It means the humans were never a species. They were a system, a last resort. For what? She turned slowly. To fight something worse. The message expanded. Old Earth code filled the screen, hidden coordinates, names long forgotten, and a warning written in thick red letters. If this protocol has activated, the extinction event has begun. Humanity is the only counter. Varric leaned closer. Extinction event. Tilna nodded. Something is coming. Something even their creators couldn't stop. Outside the window, space looked calm, but the calm didn't last. First came the darkness. Stars vanished one by one, swallowed by a thick black cloud. Ships sent to investigate never returned. Entire sectors went silent. Reports came from the far rim, shadows moving through planets, time slowing. Whole moons turning to ash in seconds. No weapons worked. No survivors. And always, just before contact was lost, the same signal was heard, a low hum, like 1,000 voices screaming from beneath water. The UFP Council called it the Null, but the humans had another name, the Devourers. In a hidden base near the edge of the galaxy, Subject Zero stood in a dark chamber, watching the storm spread. The room was full of old technology, Earth symbols, human history, and strange machines too advanced for even UFP scientists to understand. Subject 1 entered quietly. The signal has reached 6 sectors. I know, Subject Zero replied. The protocol has started. Behind them, a panel opened. Inside it was a device sealed in layers of metal and code. A glowing red core pulsed slowly inside. Is that it? She asked. He nodded. The final seed, our last memory, our first weapon. On the other side of the galaxy, Tilna met with Verix and Dinar in a secret council room. The UFP was broken, now only fragments remained. But the humans, somehow, were growing stronger. We need them, Tilna said. Verix looked angry. We need the ones who turned against us, who broke our fleets. They didn't break us, she said. They were warning us, preparing. Dinar said nothing. He stared at the floor. Then finally, he looked up. Send the message. At the edge of an old battlefield, the humans received the signal. Subject Zero read the words and didn't smile. They finally understand. They're asking for help? Subject 1 asked. No, he replied. They're surrendering their pride. He opened the ancient vault. The red core inside lit the room with a glow that felt alive. We swore never to activate this, she whispered. But this is why we exist, he said. They carried the core to the center of the chamber. Machines unfolded around them. Lights blinked, data streamed. The past began to come alive. Tilna's voice came through the transmission. We don't know how to fight it, but you do. Subject Zero responded calmly. We were not made to fight it. We were made to become what it fears. Subject 1 stepped forward. The core holds our memories. All of us, the ones who died. The ones forgotten. When it activates, we become one mind. One purpose, Verix asked. What happens after that? Subject Zero paused. Then we stop being human. As the final protocol began, human ships everywhere received a signal, no words, just a feeling. Every sleeper cell woke. Every hidden kit opened. Billions of humans, scattered across the stars, felt the call. They answered. Old satellites reconnected. Lost stations turned back on. Earth's last signal echoed across space, and the past returned with power and pain. Subject Zero stood in the red light of the chamber, breathing deeply. Begin. A pulse shot out. The red core exploded into light. Not destroying, but spreading. It passed through machines, ships, minds. Every human touched by the protocol changed not in body, but in purpose. They were no longer individuals. They were the weapon. Across the sky, ships began to align. Fleets moved with a single thought. Entire planets lit up with red dot, and then the stars screamed. The Devourers arrived, not as ships, not as creatures, but as hunger. Black shapes moved through space, bending light, devouring energy, crushing matter. They didn't kill. They erased. UFP weapons failed. Alien tech froze. And then, the humans stood in the way. Subject Zero faced the black swarm with no fear. Let them come. They did. And they met something they didn't expect. Not fire. Not light, but resistance. Humans. Attacked with no pattern, they adapted. They rewrote their ships mid-battle. They sacrificed. They learned. And for the first time in eons, the Devourers slowed. Subject 1 smiled through the chaos. They're not used to prey that fights. Back. No, Subject 0 said. They're used to prey that begs. The battle raged for days. Suns died, time twisted. Space cracked. But the humans held the line, and then the final act began. Subject 0 activated the core one last time. We are not the species you expected, he said. We are the backup plan. He vanished in red light along with his ship, his crew, and everything within 10 light years. A hole opened in space. The Devourers screamed for the first time. And then they fled. Silence returned. Stars blinked back into view. And somewhere, in a quiet place far from the war, a child opened their eyes. Human. Awake. Free. The final protocol had ended, but humanity had only just begun. The stars were bleeding. Galaxies spun slower, and light itself seemed afraid. In the silence between systems, black scars floated, reminders of the war that had no name, only whispers. The UFP called it the End War. But the humans had a better name. They called it the Hunt. Subject 0 was gone, sacrificed in the last surge against the Devourers. But his mind, like many others, had not died. It had joined something greater. The Hive. Humans were no longer individuals. They had evolved, adapted, changed by the final protocol. But not all of them followed the new order. Some rebelled. On the scorched world of Drenate, UFP scouts found something strange. A crater. A ship. A signal. Not Devourer tech, and not standard human design either. Tilna examined the data, her face pale. This isn't just a human ship. She whispered. It's a hybrid. Something between their oldest code and something else. Varix frowned. Something else like what? She didn't answer. She just zoomed in on the ship's markings. They were symbols one had seen in thousands of years. Earth symbols. Broken, twisted, corrupted. A voice crackled through the transmission, speaking ancient English. Humanity was the weapon. Now we choose to become the war. Some humans, twisted by endless upgrades, isolated minds, and exposure to Devourer tech, had become something darker. They weren't saving the galaxy anymore. They were hunting it. The UFP named them Ferals. Aboard an orbiting UFP battlecruiser, Tilna stared at the screen. Red zones were spreading fast. Whole systems were being overtaken, not by Devourers, but by these rogue humans. They're not coordinated, Dinar said. Not like the others. These ones are wild, unstable. They're worse, Tilna replied. They remember pain. And now they don't care who suffers. In the center of the storm, the Hive stirred. Subject 1 stood in a chamber of living metal. She had survived the core's activation, but not unchanged. Her body was still human, but her thoughts moved through thousands of minds now. She felt every loss, every scream, every new birth. And she felt the Ferals coming. They split from the fold, said a voice inside her head. They want to consume what remains. She clenched her fists. Then we fight. The Hive prepared for war, not against the Devourers, but against its own children. A clash of monsters. On the dead moon of Karthus, the two sides met. The Ferals landed first. They moved like shadows, fast, violent, angry. Their eyes glowed. With raw power, their weapons were not built, they were grown. Blades of bone. Armor made from the remains of the first Devourers. Then the Hive arrived. Clean lines, living machines. Ships that pulsed like hearts. Calm fury. No diplomacy. No warning. Just war. The first strike came from orbit. Feral ships cut through Hive lines. Like fire, but the Hive adapted, faster than before. Every loss taught them something new. Every screen was remembered and used. Subject 1 stood at the front line, her eyes locked on the feral leader, a tall, scarred human with no name. His body was part devourer, part man. He had no mouth. He spoke directly into her mind. "You followed the protocol," he said. "I rejected it." "You became a virus," she answered. "I became real," he replied. They clashed, not just bodies, minds. The battlefield twisted with their duel. Reality shook. The sky cracked open as their thoughts collided like storms. Feral humans attacked without fear, tearing into the hive's ranks. But they were wild, unstable, easy to bait. Subject 1 used their rage against them. "They burn bright," she said, "but they burn fast." Still, the cost was high. Entire hive units were lost. Cities on neutral planets were destroyed in crossfire. UFP vessels tried to help but were ignored, or worse, caught in the fire. "This isn't a battle," Tilna said from orbit. "It's a storm," Virex gave the order. "Pull back. Let them finish each other." But the war didn't end quickly. The ferals were desperate. They had no home, no purpose but destruction. And as they died, they only grew more dangerous. One feral ship turned into a black hole before impact, ripping a hive carrier in half. Subject 1 finally cornered the feral leader in the ruins of a collapsed station. "Why?" she asked, stepping over broken metal and blood. "Why destroy everything we fought for?" The leader's voice was soft now. "Because we were never meant to be free," he whispered. "We were made to kill. You think you've evolved, but you've only delayed the truth." She stepped closer. "I made a choice," she said. "No," he replied. "You followed code." And then he lunged. Their final clash didn't echo in sound. It echoed in thought. Memories exploded. War, birth, loss, joy, rage, and finally, silence. The feral leader collapsed. Subject 1 stood alone. The hive had won, but not without scars. She looked to the sky. The devourers were gone. The ferals were defeated, but now the galaxy stared at her kind with fear. Tona watched the battlefield from orbit. Her voice was quiet. "We made them," Virex nodded. "And now we live in their shadow." Subject 1 sent one last message. "We do not want thrones. We do not want praise. We only want peace." But peace is hard to believe in when monsters walk among stars, and humanity had become something far beyond that. Word. Something ancient. Something new. Something waiting. The galaxy would remember this day. The day monsters fought monsters, and both sides bled.